the first topic, fitness, something that I've personally gotten into quite a lot this year. I know you see me in the gym a little bit. I'm not quite as in good shape as you are. We're making progress. Helped me so much. And from someone who's an expert in fitness, I'd love for you to firstly kind of explain how fitness can affect someone's everyday life.
So fitness essentially can affect, well, definitely has a massive impact on everyone's lives. Fitness or lack of fitness, either one would affect anyone's life through their quality of their lifestyle, their relationships that they build, the habits that they manage to implement in their lifestyles. It literally can impact everything, even to the point of how much money you would make, I would say. So it's harder for me to think of things that fitness wouldn't impact in someone's life.
And when we're talking about like core fitness, a really important fitness that has this effect, what are we talking about? Weightlifting, cardio? Like, in your opinion, what sort of fitness should people be doing? Is it different for everyone?
So it completely depends on someone's starting point. I would say, for general health, just get moving. Just move about, just walk more. It all depends on where you start. If you don't do anything at all, if you're stuck in your house, if you're overweight, severely overweight, right, and you don't do anything whatsoever, just going for a walk, implementing a regular walk into your life will completely change your life. If you're already used to training once a week, pushing that up to twice a week, then 3 times a week will change your life. You know what I mean? So it completely depends on someone's starting point, I would say.
And in what way could a simple walk on a daily basis change someone's life?
Well, simply by getting the blood moving, right? Massively improving their cardiovascular health, their mental health, you know, just that difference, just that implementation can really reduce the risk of so many diseases and cardiovascular health problems and mental problems. So it really is huge. Not just from that perspective, but in the way that if you walk at the right times, for example, so knowing when to implement your walk can massively affect the way you digest food, for example, or manage your glucose spikes. If you do it well straight after a meal, that is a great way to manage your glucose spikes. Now, the more glucose spikes you manage, essentially the healthier you'll be throughout your life. The more you can slow down aging. So, walking just has an extreme amount of benefits.
It's really interesting. And we kind of already touched on this a little bit, but a question that I think some people will be asking is, okay, so how often should I be walking? How often should I be doing an actual workout? In your opinion, what's healthy when it comes to timings and so on for people when it comes to fitness?
So for me, it's all about progressive overload. I just touched on that a bit. Of course, to an extent, because there is such thing as overtraining. But what I'm getting at here is that if you start somewhere, just try to be better. Try to get better. 1% every day, every week, every month, every year, right? As long as you're progressing, you're not standing still, you're not sitting still, right? I would say, on average, of course, I said that depending on the person, even just a short walk when you're used to not doing anything can completely transform your life. But on average, I would say to start seeing decent progress, 3 sessions a week is fantastic. It's really a really good place to start. I'd say optimally between 3 and 5 sessions a week.
And can you overtrain? Because
100%.
sometimes I have seen you in the gym and you kind of like, you're in here again.
I think, yes, you can overtrain, and overtraining looks different for everyone. I think over the years, it completely depends on how you have adjusted to training over the years. I would say I've been training all of my life. In fact, you say you see me in the gym all the time now, I can tell you I can vouch I don't train anywhere near as hard as I used to growing up in football. Nowhere near as hard. So I'm used to extreme amounts of training. What I do now is nowhere near my overtraining state, I would say. So it is relevant to the individual. If you are used to training once a week and you've been training once a week for 5 years, and then straight off the bat you go and change it to 5 times a week, you'll most likely be overtraining. So I would say it's all about progressive overload. Gradually try to do a bit more, a bit more, a bit more.
Sure.
And then probably don't push.
So edit your routine, right?
100%, yeah. Yeah, just adapt, and try to push yourself a bit more. Try to focus on what you're doing in that session. First of all, try to go for technical failure, close to technical failure.
What's technical failure mean?
Technical failure is essentially, let's say you're working out in the gym, and most people don't. Majority of people do not reach this point, but it's essential. Well, I would say 1 to 2 reps in reserve to technical failure would be essential for building muscle. Of course, if it's accommodated with the right nutrition. But technical failure essentially means you are working out to the point of not being able to lift the weight again for another rep with correct form. Okay. That is what. So if you're doing bicep curls, you would do your reps. This is why I always have a range. I never have 3 sets of 15 reps. I have maybe 3 sets of 8 to 15 reps, and I would pick a point where I'm expected to fail. So I would pick a weight where I'd expect to fail in between that range. And technical failure is when you attempt to lift the weight again and you physically can't do it with correct form.
Understood. And another point just on fitness. So my own journey with fitness, when I was younger, I was quite chubby, and I kind of feel like my body shape was almost, I don't know whether it's like just genetics or it's come through a phase of just storing loads of sugar. I don't know. But I really find that some people can get such greater results than myself, even if I'm putting in just as much work. And that kind of limited me to start with. It was a bit demotivating. Maybe I think maybe it's because I'm 6'4", so someone who's shorter, their muscles are shorter. And I was just always trying to look at like why other people were getting quicker results rather than just like focusing on myself, whether it was because of genetics, whether it was because of my view of other people, whether it was because of beliefs and false beliefs that I've made up about height and things like that. So my question really to you is, was my thinking like correct in some way, in terms of thinking that everyone has a kind of different experience and different growth cycle, as you could say, with fitness? Or is it kind of just, if you work hard, you're going to get the result?
You were partly right. Genetics do play a massive role. They do play a big role, but not as big as most people think. So a lot of people will actually not make the progress that they want because of the excuse that they've told themselves already about genetics. If they were to never hear that genetics plays a part, they would most likely be making more progress, because by default it gives them an excuse to try a bit less, not quite as hard, right? So that genetics do play a part 100%, but biohacking comes in very, very nicely in this topic, actually, because there are so many things that you can do to allow yourself to adapt. So many different things, because you can take a look at other areas that may be holding you back other than genetics, which can be like gut health, hormone, right? Optimizing your hormones, blood sugar levels. You were saying I think you said you were liking sweets a lot.
I had sweets for breakfast when I was a kid.
so that blood sugar, your blood sugar levels can massively impact how insulin sensitive you are, which therefore impacts how much muscle you can build. So many different things that can come
there's a lot to consider, right? There's
a lot. And this is essentially, this is what biohacking is, right? Considering everything and trialing everything to get to the bottom of it, and why you may not be making the results that you want.
And that's exactly what we're going to get onto later on. And the one thing I always disregarded, I'd look at my results from fitness and working out physically, and I was disregarding the impact and the effect that they're actually having on me internally and on different parts of my life. Because regardless of kind of how physically good I was looking or growing, internally
Mm-hmm.
I was flourishing in comparison to when I wasn't working out or taking fitness seriously. So yeah, I think that's a good point. And coming off the back of that, if you had to give me three misconceptions that people have when it comes to fitness, like your top three, what would they be?
First of all, I think one of the biggest ones is what the entry level to fitness people assume it is. People think that the harder you train is always reflects the results that you get. That is not always the case. It really, really isn't. The entry level to health and fitness is actually quite low. Like I mentioned before, all you have to do is just move a bit more than you did before. You don't have to drive yourself to exhaustion. So one of the biggest things, like I just said, is people, especially once they get into the groove of things, they really, really want to push themselves and burn themselves out straight away, which causes them to not really, well, it causes a not so sustainable period of time, if that makes sense, right? And that you can't really sustain training, overtraining over a long period of time. And also, it doesn't equal better results. If you overtrain, if your goal is to build muscle, and you think that by going to the gym 7 times a week you're going to optimize building muscle, that is not the case. First of all, you are actually working against yourself because you're breaking muscle down. You're not allowing rest is just as important as training, and secondly, you will burn out. It won't happen. It's not sustainable. That's number one. Number two, I would say, maybe thinking about, maybe not realizing how many people are on steroids.
Okay.
And how many people are not natural. So many physiques that you see all over Instagram are just not natural. In fact, it really upsets me to say that so many coaches out there, so many coaches out there are not open about their use of steroids, and they give off this image of their physiques, but they don't let their clients, and let alone all of their followers, know that in order to achieve that physique, they're actually not natural. Now, there's different ways to use steroids, and some of them do it in a way that allows them to achieve great physiques. But believe it or not, you can go to a gym and not even notice, not even know that a random guy that looks completely normal may actually be on steroids, because a lot of people just assume that just by taking steroids, they'll completely transform their physiques without focusing on the nutrition and their training, as well as the use of steroids, which again I personally really, really don't recommend unless they decide that they want to compete. When I talk about steroids, I'm not referring to things like TRT, by the way, testosterone replacement therapy. I'm talking about things that are actually used, substances that are used to grow their muscles and take them above their natural limits. That would be number two. And number three would probably be believing the things that society is trying to push as and deem as healthy, such as all of these low-fat diets, vegan diets. In fact, this is funny because the majority, if not all, of my clients that I've had throughout the years who were vegetarian or vegan turned out to be nutrient deficient. Yet the society pushes so many different approaches to health, and so many products they deem them as healthy, which are just completely not. Stuff like all of these protein bars, like I said, vegan diets. Yeah, so I would say believing too much bullshit that the society and system feeds people.
And that's not just about fitness, that's something that happens across all walks of life. And for me, I see that every day of misconceptions in education. So anyway, that brings the end to the fitness topic. Let's now move on to nutrition.
Let's do it.